Welcome to the Recovery Daily Podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Abassi. I'm a grateful recovering alcoholic and stroke survivor. And today I wanted to talk about the difficulties of watching other people relapse. And sometimes it's over and over again. And just kind of my thoughts about it. I have struggled with this over the past 8 years. The reality of the disease of alcoholism is that it's a fatal progression, and some people are not going to stay, you know? Um, that is the scary reality of this disease. And I have seen over my 8 years that I've been practicing the program, my sobriety program, I've seen people who just resist. Like, I remember an individual who would come to the meetings, and towards the end of the meeting, after listening to the literature, listening to the shares, this individual would say, um, I just can't, I am not grateful that I'm an alcoholic. And it's just not fair. And it I don't want to pretend to analyze what these other people are thinking when they have this mentality, because I've been there. I've absolutely been there. I didn't come in 8 years ago thinking, "Oh, I'm so happy I'm here. I'm so happy I'm an alcoholic. I'm so happy I can never drink again." It was the opposite. I was miserable. I was so jealous of other people. And it's not like I walked into my sobriety meetings and everything clicked. I really was I was a sponge, yet I did feel a lot of resistance. And it took me several years of going to meetings before I actually didn't drink. And what I thought I was going to be able to do was go to meetings, and it was going to make me sober. It was going to make, honestly, and we're being honest here, I thought if I went to meetings, I could learn how to drink um correctly, because I just couldn't fathom that this was something that was out of my control, even though it was already out of my control. I just didn't believe it. I didn't believe that there was something that could happen inside my body that that I didn't have control over. But any disease that we suffer from is something that we don't have control over, or it wouldn't be a disease. It wouldn't be a progressively fatal disease, progressive, fatal, whatever. You know what I mean? Um, so that is in fact what what was keeping me from getting better, was the disease itself. The disease, you know, making me feel like I could control it. It's cunning and baffling. That's what they say, and it absolutely is. Um, Another thing that I went to my sponsor about, actually, I didn't go to her about this specific topic, but it came out when I was talking to her, was that I said to her, I don't believe that some people are sicker than others. That's what the program says. Some of the literature says some people are sicker than others. And I thought, it's a disease, and it's the same disease in all of us. Um, she said it's one of the few times that and this isn't my current sponsor, it's my previous one. It's one of the few things she said to me where she actually disagreed with me and said, our literature tells us that some people are sicker than others. And I was able to like redefine that for myself because I understand it now that some people have to do more work. Some people have a harder fight. Some people have a longer fight. And some people never win and they die. And and that is it's a hard realization, one that I really didn't believe until I started seeing it. I There was an individual that was in IOP with me, and I found out, I don't know, a year later or something like that he died. And we were friends. We sat next to each other in IOP. I didn't know his family. I didn't know anybody or any of his friends or anything. I just was friends with him, and he was really funny, and we got along, and he died. We both had the same opportunities. We sat side by side, and yet my decisions, my disease, my experiences kept me sober. My program kept me sober while his didn't. And I talk to you guys all the time about my friend from, uh, I guess I met him in fifth grade and knew him my whole life. And then he died of the disease. And we had drank together several years before he passed away. And I thought my decisions and my disease, once again, led me to a life of sobriety and joy and introduced me to what serenity is. And his didn't. He didn't stay. He he kept relapsing. He kept going back out. It didn't stick, is how I put it sometimes. And my brother-in-law from my previous marriage, the uncle of my children, he also had the disease and ended up committing suicide. Um, and that is an example, as well as these others, that some people are sicker than others. Some people have a lot more going on, a lot of other invisible illnesses that joined with alcoholism make the fight one that can't be won. And what I heard yesterday, I virtually attended the speaker at the Day of Sharing, which is um, a local, not a, I don't know, it's not a conference, it's an event in my area where they have meetings all day from 8 o'clock to 4 o'clock, and then they have a speaker. And I was hoping that I could go, but I made a decision yesterday morning that I just wasn't well enough to be able to have more visual stimulation. I wasn't going to get better if I exposed myself to that. So I didn't go, but my sponsor and another friend in my network were kind enough to call me and put their cell phone on the podium. And I was able to listen to the speaker. And what I heard yesterday was the difference between staying and keep coming back. So stay versus keep coming back. And I think the difference is holding on rather than letting go and then grabbing back onto the life preserver, letting myself flail around in the ocean some more and then grabbing onto the life preserver again. One of these days, I'm not going to reach the life preserver and I'm going to drown. And that was, interestingly enough, that was the the title of our literature, our reading this morning was Drowning, about um, grabbing a hold of that life preserver. And there's a very well-known story at the beginning of the book, Drop the Rock, that is about watching somebody who is out there drowning and you are trying to bring them into the boat with the rest of you. And some people are able to grasp a hold of the principles of the sobriety program and never leave, while others um, disappear and reappear, kind of like they're trying to stay afloat in the water and having a very difficult time. And there's only so much that I can do. I can throw the life preserver and I can even show somebody how to swim, but I can't move their arms and legs for them, right? I can't keep them sober. And it's so difficult to watch that sometimes I may question my own sobriety. Like, how long am I going to be able to keep swimming? Am I going to end up letting go? Am I going to start bobbing up and down in the water? Um, Somebody mentioned this morning about putting doubt in others, and that's just like kind of the flip side of the coin, where watching somebody relapse may put doubt in me. And that's a place where I need to be careful how much I watch somebody relapse and try so hard to help them. Like, I want to help, but I have to make sure that I am humbly prioritizing my own sobriety. And then the flip side of the coin is when I see somebody relapsing over and over again, and I start to develop that doubt in my head about them, if they've hit their so-called rock bottom. I mean, we call it rock bottom, but rock bottom looks totally different for everybody. Um, do I look at somebody or talk to somebody who's relapsing and put doubt in them that they aren't able to do it, or that you haven't hit your rock bottom? Um, you know, maybe you're not done drinking. I mean, that's a concept that's talked about all the time in the program. And it is it's really difficult to look at our lives and know, was that it? Did I hit my rock bottom? Um, or am I going to keep digging? Am I going to end up digging myself deeper? And that's what happened to me. I thought I had reached my rock bottom, and went to detox, and yet I wasn't ready yet. I wasn't willing to do whatever it took. I wasn't willing to take the suggestions that were put in front of me by those in detox, by those in my fellowship. And I started drinking again after a couple months. I didn't believe that I could do this thing for the rest of my life. I wasn't able to look at my my life one day at a time. So I think I lost my train of thought. Sorry. That's what happens here. When you had a stroke and you're doing a podcast, that's what happens. Um, Seeing somebody else do the same thing that I did is really difficult. And when I look at my experience, I did that for, I think, at least 4 years. I was going to meetings and kept drinking. It doesn't seem like it was 4 years, and maybe I didn't go to meetings regularly for those 4 years, but I definitely got introduced to the program, um, and went to meetings and kept drinking. And it was an extended period of time that I did that. Uh, um, I was not as engaged in the program, in that I wasn't like talking to other people a lot in order to have somebody really watching me relapse. I mean, maybe they just knew that I was drinking. I imagine that they did know that I was drinking, because as somebody who's 8 years sober, I, for the most part, can tell when somebody is still drinking. There probably are some folks that are able to pull the wool over my eyes. There's lots of them actually, but I know that I was doing the same thing. And the tragedy of the disease is that um, some people are going to keep doing that until they die. And I have to remember that it's not my responsibility to save other people, but only to offer my experience, strength, and hope, in the way of talking about what it was like for me and what it's like now. Um, but if I can't, if I don't have work, put in the work for my sobriety, I don't have leftovers to share, right? I don't have a strong enough program in order that it's overflowing and I can share with others. And sometimes when I'm watching somebody relapse, it's actually emptying my cup, right? You can't pour from an empty cup. If I'm watching somebody relapse, it seems to start emptying my cup. I start feeling like, well, if they can keep coming back, quote unquote, if they can keep relapsing and coming back, then why can't I? And that's when it gets dangerous for me. That's when I need to pull away. As difficult as that is, and as sad as it is, there are times when I need to say, live and let live. There are times when I have to recognize the wisdom to know the difference. What can I change and what can I not change? I can't change somebody else's ability to work the program. My responsibility is to share what's worked for me and live a life of sobriety in a way that helps others see that recovery is possible. Um, but humility reminds me that I'm always just as far away from the ditch as I was when I stopped drinking the first day. Um, I need to stay on the path, and to stay on the path, I need to do the work. I need to call my own sponsor. I need to go to meetings. And for me, I need to talk about this stuff out loud. I need to recover out loud. I can't let the doubt and fear or struggles of others in the program shake my foundation. My job is to stay sober first and foremost myself. So, although it is sad, frustrating, um, and sometimes feels so helpless to watch somebody else feel helpless. It's so difficult to watch that, but it also serves as a reminder for me why I stay. Um, I can't control people, places, and things. I can only control what's within my fingertips. I'm laughing because I always say it the opposite way of what makes sense to me. I can't control anything outside of my fingertips. Um, Recovery for me is waking up in the morning. It's personal. It's selfish. It has to be selfish first in order for me to fill that cup. And when I wake up in the morning, I'm the only one that's between my ears. And I have to have a conversation, be it brief. I have to have a conversation about what are you going to choose today, Rachel? Are you going to choose life? Are you going to choose a joyful, serene life? Because you know what that feels like, and you know what work is required to feel it. Um, or are you just going to not pick up a drink? Because there's a difference. Um, Drinking is not an option, and I hope that 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 sureness that I feel in that statement stays with me forever for the rest of my life. I hope it does. I hope that I can just keep doing the same thing for my program every day for the rest of my life because I can do that. That seems pretty easy to me. Um, so that drinking is not an option. I continue to think that drinking is not an option, but not picking up a drink is not the goal anymore. That's what the goal was in the beginning. But today, the goal for me is to choose life in every capacity every day when I wake up. So the best thing that I can do for others on some days is to just make that decision within myself. So thank you for listening today. And I hope you have a great day or evening, whatever time of the day it is for you. And I will talk to you tomorrow.